Sexuality Educator. I just finished watching the new season of Orange is the New Black. This is not a formal review, even though I have a ton of thoughts and lots of emotions after having watched the season. I'm sure they will creep in, but that's not really what I'm talking about. What I want to do today is talk specifically to those of you who are parents or caregivers who may have watched this show with your teens. Because I think media and popular media is a great jumping off point for having conversations around sexuality. What I want to do today is give you a few conversation starters that you can use if you've been watching this show with your teens. And when I say conversation starters, what I basically mean are questions that you can ask your kid, in this case, I'm going to assume teens, about what you're watching. I don't recommend this show for children, even older children, because this is a very mature show and it's for mature audiences. There are a lot of complex and difficult themes and content. There is sexually explicit content. There's swearing. There is like a veritable buffet of oppression. There's sexism, there's racism, there's homophobia, there's transphobia, there's ableism. All of that is really difficult to digest, and it's just too much for children. So no, don't watch the show with your kids. As for teens, it's going to depend on their age and their maturity level. If it's something that you've never watched before that you're thinking you might want to watch with your teens, then I'd recommend checking out a few episodes on your own, just to see if it's something that you think, A, your teen might be interested in, and B, if it's something that you feel would be appropriate for your teen or for your family. I'm going to be throwing a lot of questions at you, but don't feel that you have to ask your teen, don't feel that you have to ask your teen all of them. In fact, I would recommend against doing that. I'm just giving you a lot of questions so you have options. So maybe pick one or two that, are interesting or you feel are important to talk about, and start with those. And as we're going through the questions, remember there's no right or wrong answer. You're really just trying to start a conversation where you and your teen can talk about your ideas and your impressions and your feelings about the show and your feelings around the issues that the show brings up. Okay, so let's do this. The first question is actually about the show in general, not specifically about season 4. So throughout the series, we've seen different prisoners sneaking off, having sex with each other, because there isn't like a designated private area in the prison for having sex and things like that. So do we think that having sex is a right? Do we think it's a privilege? Do we think that prisoners or someone who's broken the law should be able to access sex, and should the prison be supporting that or not? Suzanne and Cucudio. I love Suzanne. She's one of my absolute favorite characters on that show. Cucudio, I don't know about yet because we haven't got to know her as well. But they seem to have a connection, and let's ask some questions about what's going on with them. So both those characters have mental health issues. We don't know specifically what they are, but they both clearly have mental health issues. How do their mental health issues affect their relationship or their attempts at building a relationship? How do their mental health issues affect their sexuality? And what are some ways that perhaps someone with a mental illness could be supported around, building a relationship or having a healthy sexual relationship? In episode 11, which, by the way, I don't think I can ever watch that episode again. I'm someone who likes to rewatch television, but that episode was too traumatic and too upsetting. There's the scene where the COs goad Suzanne and Cucudio into a physical fight. Suzanne really doesn't want to fight, and Cucudio does because she's angry. And one of the things she says to goad Suzanne into fighting is she calls her a virgin. So why does Cucudio choose virgin as an insult and as something to try and provoke Suzanne into fighting her? And follow-up question, why does hearing the word virgin or being told that she's a virgin upset Suzanne so much? This is where I'm going to get into some issues around sexual violence. So there was a season-long arc around Tiffany Doggett and Donuts, which was a continuation of last season's arc. So last season, Donuts, it's his nickname, I can't remember the character's actual name. Donuts is a CO, and he raped Doggett. He raped her. And this season, we've seen the aftermath of that, and her trying to come to terms with it, and her trying to deal with it. And they have a conversation about it, and she tells him to his face, look, you raped me. Donut's response is one of what seems like sincere confusion, and he says, well, but when I was doing it, I said I loved you, so that isn't rape. But my first question is, why would Donuts think that because he had said I loved you, or maybe because he even sincerely felt that he loved her, that what he had done wasn't rape? Why do you think that ultimately Doggett chose to forgive Donuts for what he had done? Why do we think that Boo didn't forgive Donuts even after Tiffany had? Do you think that Donuts truly understands why what he did to Tiffany was wrong and why what he did was rape? And what do you think about the writer's decision to portray Donuts as someone who is a rapist but who also has positive qualities? Now let's talk a little bit about Maritza Ramos, who we learned more about in this season. I think this is the first time we got a backstory on Ramos. So in that backstory, we saw two instances of businesses that used women's bodies to make money. So she worked in a bar, and in the bar, all the bartenders were dressed in, very body conscious dresses. And then we saw the same thing later on when she was at the car dealership. So the question is, why do businesses sometimes use women's bodies as a way to make money? What do we think Ramos believes about what her most valuable qualities are? What valuable qualities do you think Ramos possesses that she may not be aware of? Early in the season, we saw that because there were budgetary concerns, and the prison is now a for-profit prison, and they're trying to make as much money as possible, that there was a shortage of menstrual products, and the women in the prison didn't have access to tampons or maxi pads, or if they could get tampons, they were having to pay exorbitantly high prices for them. So what did you think of that? What do you think about a prison denying access to something like menstrual products? Do you think that menstrual products are a necessity, or are they a luxury? Judy King, not a huge fan of that character, but she did say something interesting, and I can't remember what episode it was, but she's getting hers in prison and having threesomes and all kinds of sex. And at one point she says to, I think it was Poussey, she's telling her about her sexual exploits, and Poussey, he's clearly disturbed by it. And she says something about how people are always trying to desexualize older women. So what did you think about that? Are people trying to desexualize older women? And if they are, why would they do that? Let me move on to Morello, who wasn't my favorite when I initially started the series, but as time has moved on, I developed a lot more compassion for her. She's starting to get into my heart. And she is newly married to, I think his name is Vinny. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. Anyway, she had a quickie marriage to this guy named Vinny, but they have lots of passion, and they can't physically have sex because the prison isn't set up for that. So they have phone sex, but it's a public phone with people all around. And during visitation, they have, I guess, they just talk dirty to each other. And it's all very passionate, but it's making everyone around them really uncomfortable. So my question is it okay for them to be doing that when there are other people around and they are inadvertently involving other people in their sexual relationship? Is that okay? If you don't think it's okay, what other options might they have for nurturing the sexual part of their relationship? Or what other options should they have? We also know from previous seasons that Morello had a sexual relationship with Nicky. And when Nicky comes back from Max, she wants to pick up where they left off. And Morello tells her, well, no, I'm married. But Nicky keeps pursuing her, both verbally and physically touching her. Morello's telling her over and over again, I'm married, I don't want to do this. We see that Morello, I think, is still attracted to Nicky on some level. But what do we think about Nicky constantly pursuing Morello, despite the fact that Morello's told her multiple times, I'm married, I don't want to do this? Is Nicky's behavior towards Morello different than Donut's behavior towards Doggett last season and this season? There's an article that's been circulating since this season came out, and I can't remember the exact title, but I'm going to link to it below, but the author describes this season as trauma porn for white people, and that basically that trauma comes at the expense of a lot of the black characters. And I thought it was an interesting article, and the author brought up one point that it actually hadn't occurred to me, and pointed out that there's basically no like black on black love in this show, that all of the relationships are either between characters of other ethnicities, or when a black character is in a relationship or has a sexual connection with someone, that it's somebody of a different race or ethnicity. So like, oh, that's an interesting point. So I'm going to link to that below, but that's another question you could ask. Why don't we see any black characters on this show having, you know, a functional romantic or sexual relationship? Sophia is the only trans character in this show. She's a trans woman of color, specifically a black trans woman. What did you think about the fact that we heard a lot about her this season? We didn't see a lot of her. What do you think about that? And why did they choose to have Sophia's character endure some of the most brutal oppression we've seen any character in any season deal with? When Sophia's wife came to Caputo's house looking for answers about what had happened to Sophia and whether or not she was even alive, Caputo's girlfriend, freaking Linda from NCC, pulled a gun on her, which got Caputo all hot and bothered. You know what? I'm not even going to try and hide the fact that I have like massive bias and irritation over what happened there. Why did he get turned on? What is wrong with him? What is wrong with Caputo? Ask your teams this question and then send me the answer, because yeah, I want to know. I'm not happy about it. Last set of questions are about Poussey and Soso. Poussey, like, hands down, my favorite character. One of my all-time favorite characters on any TV show ever. I know she's fictional, but I'm devastated. Like, questions we can ask about Poussey's arc this season and Poussey and Soso's relationship. Early in the season, Poussey and Soso are, you know, getting into their sexual relationship. They're figuring each other out, and you know, that's taking time. It's a little awkward. And you know, Poussey is all ready to go down on Soso. That happens. Soso's not ready to reciprocate yet. And Poussey's like, you know what? That's chill. No rush. I'm into it, but when you're ready. And at a certain point, Soso kind of pushes herself to do it. And Poussey's like, no, like, you're not ready. Like, you don't have to do anything you're not ready to do. So the question is, why did Soso push herself to do something that she wasn't ready for? Another question, for me, the question of the entire season, is what was with the producers and the writers' decision to kill off my favorite character, but more importantly, one of the only explicitly lesbian characters in the show? I think the only other one is Boo. And more specifically, the only, as far as I know, out black lesbian character in the show. Why did they choose to do that? Do you think that was a good decision? Last question has nothing to do with sex or sexuality in the show. Where was Chang all season? We saw her literally one time. I love me some Chang. Where was Chang? Season 5, I need more Chang. If you want more conversation starters, You can sign up for my newsletter. I'm going to put the link here. I'm also going to put the link in the description box below. And when you sign up for my newsletter, you will get a copy of my guide, Conversation Starters for Families, and it had all kinds of these type questions that you can use with kids of any age. It goes right from preschool to older teen, and they're just more general questions. They're not about Orange is the New Black specifically. So let me know down in the comments, did you watch this season of Orange is the New Black? What did you think? How are you feeling after everything? If you like these questions and conversation starters, then give this video a thumbs up. Share it with somebody that you think this might be helpful for. And certainly if you don't want to miss any videos, then you can click the subscribe button and you will get all of my content. Okay, that's all for now. I hope you have a great day and I will see you soon. Bye. Check out my latest vlog to find out why smart may just be the new pretty. And click to subscribe, like me on Facebook, and follow me on Twitter for lots and lots of sex ed goodness.